Okay guys, let's start our class for today, okay. So we are continuing our discussion for elasticity of demand and supply, right. So in the previous class we discussed price elasticity of demand. So what was the definition of price elasticity of demand? Basically it was the responsiveness of demand, that is responsiveness of quantity demanded with the change in price, okay. So can you tell me the ED is always a negative sign or a positive sign? ED is always a negative sign or a positive sign? Quickly tell me. ED is always a positive sign or a negative sign? Yes, always a negative sign. Why? Because of my law of demand, okay. Negative sign, always a negative sign. Why? Because if my, for example, if my demand increase, if my price increased, so there will be a positive change in my price, but because of increase in price, what will happen? My demand will obviously decrease because of my law of supply. So that's why my demand elasticity will always be a negative sign, okay. So you can write it as a pointer, it is always negative because of my law of demand. Clear? Now let's move forward. Continuing with the price elasticity of demand, now let us discuss the determinants of price elasticity of demand. Determinants of my demand elasticity. So first determinant would be my number of substitutes. If my number of substitutes are more for certain good, will its elasticity be high or less? Will it be more elastic or inelastic? Think about it. For example, take the example of a clothing item, basic clothing item. For example, take this top only. What will happen? I had a lot of options, right? I must have had a lot of options. So if the price of this top might have increased by a slighter amount, I may leave this by because I have a lot of options from where I can choose, which are having the same price again. Clear? Is this clear? So that's why, however the higher the number of substitutes I have for my goods or service, higher the elasticity, right? So I can say higher the number of substitutes, higher the elasticity of demand. Clear? Similarly, let's talk about the degree of closeness. For example, I say the comparison between bus and car, they are not so good substitutes as I compare to this top or second top option, right? So the degree of closeness is more in my top options as compared to my bus or car. Clear? So as my degree of closeness increases, my substitutes, the chances of choosing the substitute also increases, right? I may ponder about whether I should go for a car or bus, because maybe car is a luxury thing and bus is not so luxury. So I may compare this, the degree of closeness is not that much, okay. But for example, I have to choose between walking and cycling, right? They may be called much more closer substitutes. So choosing between walking and cycling is an easy task as compared to choosing between car and bus, right? So that's why as my degree of closeness increases, so higher the, or I say more closer the substitute higher the demand elasticity. These are directly asked in an exam, okay. They may give you a case scenario and they may ask you to determine the determinants of the price elasticity of demand. So, please make sure you are focusing here, degree of closeness and the number of substitutes. Note it down quickly. Okay. Moving forward, even if you are not noting down, just understand the concept because you are provided with the notes only, so you can walk through that. Second determinant can be proportion of income spent. Think about it, while making a decision about for example food item, or while making a decision about the car, what exactly, in which decision will you think more? In which decision will you think more? Regarding buying a food item or regarding buying a car? Tell me in the chat box. Please, this class, I want this to be super interactive, guys. Otherwise, there is no point of discussing the things if you are not responding from your end. Right? Tell me, will I be thinking more about buying a food item? For example, take example of bread. Will I be thinking more about buying bread or buying a car? Tell me. Yes, of course a car. Why car? Because more proportion of my income is being spent on car. Bread is a very small amount of my income, right? For example, if I am earning 100% of something, so maybe 1% only would be spent on my 1% or 0.1% of my income would be spent on my bread, but almost 10 to 20% of my income might be being spent on my car. So that's why I will be more thinking about my car's decision. Okay. So I will say higher the proportion of income being spent. Always think, whenever I am having a lot, I am thinking about buying something for a longer time, for a greater effort, right? Then the elasticity would be higher because I may be more prone to change my decision. Okay? So higher the income spent, higher the proportion of income spent, on goods or service, higher the elasticity of demand. So I can say car has more elasticity than buying car is more elastic than the bread. Noted? Moving forward to third factor, which is time period. Third is time period. How can my time period impact? If I am able to think for a longer period about my decision, I am more prone to change my decision, right, of buying something. So my demand would be elastic in long run or short run? Tell me, my demand will be elastic on long run or short run? Quickly tell me. So write longer the period, higher the demand elasticity. Because people have more time to change their consumption pattern. So I can write elastic in long run and inelastic in short run. Okay, clear? So these were three main determinants of my elasticity of demand. First one was number of substitutes and this degree of closeness. Second was proportion of income spent, and third one is my time period. Is it okay? Shall we move forward? Now one more thing, if I draw a straight line curve, this is my straight demand curve, okay. So if I join this here and join this here, so here my degree of elasticity decreases. As I move downward my demand curve, my degree of elasticity decreases, okay. So here I would be having infinite elasticity, here I would be having greater than 1 elasticity, this is elastic. At here where my change in income is change in price is equal to change proportional change in price is equal to proportional change in quantity demanded, it is my unit elasticity. Lower than that I am getting what I am getting, less than 1, which is my inelastic demand, and at this point I am getting my elasticity as 0. So you can say this is distribution of elasticity across linear demand curve. Clear? Take 20 seconds and revise this. Get a hold of this. Then guys, shall we move forward? Those giving me answers, done? Okay. Now moving forward, let us talk about price elasticity of supply. Price elasticity of supply. So again this is called responsiveness of change in, there I was talking about price elasticity of demand, that is why I was talking about change in quantity demanded, but here I would be talking about change in quantity supplied, okay. Responsiveness of change in quantity supplied with respect to what? To change in price. Okay. So what will be my formula like? Change in quantity supplied by quantity, change in price by price, okay. Or I say percentage change in quantity supplied, percentage change in price. This is the basic formula. Now quickly tell me, analyzing the situation, will my price elasticity of supply give me a positive sign or a negative sign? Think about the law of supply and then tell me, will I get a positive sign or will I get a negative sign in my price elasticity of supply value? Tell me. Positive or negative sign in my price elasticity of supply? Yes, exactly. Someone answered correctly. I will get a positive sign. Why? Because as according to to my law of supply, with the increase in price, the profitability of my good and service increases. That's why the producer will supply more and more quantities. So, with a positive change in price, I will be getting a positive change in quantity supplied. With a negative change in price, I will be getting a negative change in quantity supplied. So, positive cancels out, give me positive, negative cancels out, give me positive. So, every time I will be always getting a positive sign. Why? Because of law of supply. There I was getting a negative sign. Why? Because of law of demand. Here I am getting a positive sign. Why? Because of law of supply. Okay? Clear till now? So, if I talk about the diagram, how will my diagram look like? This is my original price, this is my original quantity, and this was my supply. Now, with a minute change in price, I am getting a huge change in quantity supplied. That is, with a minute change in price, I am getting my huge change in quantity supplied. So, that is why my supply curve will elastic. Okay. Again, this is more flatter curve, and I told you, flatter the curve, higher the elasticity. If I talk about the steeper, like for example, with a huge change in price, I am just getting a small change in quantity demanded. Let's clear? With this much change in price, I am getting only this much change in quantity demanded. So, how my curve looks like now? It is more steeper curve. It means inelastic supply. Clear? Okay. Similarly, I can draw the third graph in the same. With my equal proportionate change in the quantity, equal proportionate change in the supply, I would be getting a more unit supply, unit elasticity. Okay. This is unit elasticity. It basically means the difference between this will be equal to difference between this. So, if I draw three graphs, so this is my unit supply, this is my elastic supply, and this is more of my inelastic. So, this is ES less than 1, this is ES equals to 1, and this is my ES greater than 1. Quickly draw this curve, and then we will move forward to determinants of our supply elasticity. Noted? So, now you thinking about the similar determinants from the elasticity of demand, think about similar determinants for my elasticity of supply. You tell me, think, because the exam is only about thinking. So, think about it. What can be my determinants of elasticity of supply? Yes, first one someone gave me very good. It is time period. So, I can divide my time period into three effects. First, immediate. Second, short run. Immediate I can say very short run. basically 1 day, 2 day, or 1 week, quarter. Short run, not 1 quarter, basically I can say fortnight, 14 days, okay. Short run is basically 1 to 1 year, 1 month to 1 year, okay. And then we have long run, whatever is greater than 1 year. These can be subjective, so don't always go. Question will specifically mention it is short run or long run, otherwise you can, it would be easy enough to choose at the discretion, okay. So think of a manufacturing business. Manufacturing business was currently producing at 23 units per day. Now it wants to increase its production, that is supply basically. So can it increase it, for example, if they want to give you, if they want, and it's at maximized, like they are producing at the maximized unit only, right, because they won't be producing less. So if they are producing 2300 units, what will be the immediate effect? If I say from the next day onwards you have to produce 5000 units, so can they increase the supply? No, they would require more labor, maybe more machinery, and if there is no space, they might need to buy the building, then they may need to buy additional raw material. So there are a lot more things required for one unit of supply. That's why the immediate effect, very short run, my supply is almost, supply elasticity is almost 0, okay. I can't change my supply very immediately, or I will say very, very inelastic. Why? Difficult to change supply, increase or decrease supply, okay, difficult to change supply in 1 or 2 days, okay. Now talking about the short run, what can happen if I take, for example, if they say after 1 month you need to produce 5000 units, so yes, I can think about it, maybe I can increase, I can't buy a new land, I can't buy a new machinery because of obviously capital constraint, but I can hire additional workers, right. For example, you may see in many shops while there are festival time in the nation. So what happens? People hire laborers that are working only for that festival time, because there is the huge demand at the market in that time period. That's why in the short term possible to change supply, but not with higher not higher degree, not to higher degree, okay. That's why my supply is still inelastic. But in the long run I can change every factor of production. I can buy additional land, I can buy machinery, I can hire additional workers, I can buy easily raw materials. So possible to change every factor, thus elastic supply. Clear? Is this clear? So time period is one of the main determinant of my price elasticity of supply. Quickly, once it's done, give me a noted in the chat box. Okay, shall we move forward? Note down the second factor. What can be the second factor of price elasticity of supply? Tell me. What can be the other factor? Government policy, right? It can be government policy. For example, if there are certain restrictions, for example, I can increase my supply using buying a land only, but there are certain restrictions on government, that I can not buy a land in this time period, or I need to keep this much minimum capital. So higher the restrictions, lesser the elasticity. Similarly, the third factor can be availability of raw material. If for example, I want to increase the supply of my shirts, cotton shirts. So cotton is a basically easily available raw material. So I can increase the supply or decrease the supply by very easily, flexible supply, right? But if I want to say, for example, I produce certain tire which requires a particular special kind of my chemical which is only imported. So it may take time to find the raw material. So that's why availability of raw material, easily available raw material means higher elasticity. Okay. So these were some determinants of my supply. Come on. So shall we move forward? Now third type of elasticity can be my income elasticity of demand. It can be my income elasticity of demand. What is the income elasticity? So previously we were talking only about my price elasticity, right? So income elasticity is basically measurement of or responsiveness of, I will write responsiveness because every definition I have been writing in that only. So responsiveness of change in what? Quantity demanded obviously, but this time with respect to income. There I was calculating with respect to price, here I am calculating with respect to my income. So the formula will become, there I was writing PED, price elasticity, income is represented basically by Y. So I will write here YED. This will become percentage or proportionate change in quantity demanded because of percentage change in income. Okay. Clear? Is this clear? It means, for example, I initially used, when my income was 500 unit, 500 rupees, I used to buy one piece of bread. One, not piece, let's take it as 1 unit of bread. 1 packet of bread, okay. Now my income has increased to 1000 rupees. What I can afford? I can afford 2 units of bread. So due to change in my income, my demand of bread increased. So this income elasticity will basically measure this demand, measure this change. So I can say my income elasticity, so higher the income, higher the demand. But you remember we talked about 3 different types of goods, given good, inferior good and normal good. So this is only the case of normal good, right? What was my inferior good? Inferior good, I told you, it did not follows the law of income. It for my inferior good, as my income increases, I would shift from my inferior good to normal good. That's why with the increase in income, my demand for inferior good will decrease. For example, if I compare between wheat versus barley, so barley is comparatively called an inferior good. So if previously I could afford barley, but with the increase in income I can now afford wheat, so I will shift from barley to wheat. So even with the increase in my income, the demand for my barley is decreasing. Okay, so for inferior good, higher the income, lower the demand. So I can conclude that for normal good, my YED is greater than 1, that is positive, and for my inferior good, my YED is negative. Okay. So this is one of the major difference in the income elasticity. There was no such difference in the supply or price elasticity of supply, price elasticity of demand. But here I have that. Clear, guys? Is this clear? Shall we move forward? Give me a thumbs up. Shall we move forward? Okay, moving forward to our next type of demand, which is cross price elasticity. Sorry. Note down the heading cross price elasticity of demand. Now we were measuring the change in demand with respect to my own goods price, but there can be the case now where if the price of some other good is increasing, still I can have the impact on my own demand, right? For example, if I take cycle versus scooter versus scooty, okay, so if the prices of scooter maybe increases, so people will shift to scooties, right? So it is not only required that the change in own goods price may be increasing the change in quantity demanded, but the prices of other goods which are changing, they may also bring out the change in my demand elasticity. Okay. So note down, this is called responsiveness of change. I have kept the definition format. In every single definition I have used the same set of words so that you can easily remember. So responsiveness of change in demand of good with respect to good A to change in price of good B. Okay. So what will my formula become? This is called my CED and for AB, two goods. Okay. So percentage change in quantity demanded of my good A with percentage change in price of my good B. Remember, in price elasticity, in income elasticity, I was only talking about good A. Okay. But here I am also talking about, one thing to note here is, here I have the quantity of good A, here I have the price of good B, but in my original formula I was to have change in quantity A, change in price of quantity A only. Okay. So while calculating, please be careful, I do not need to take the change in price of own good, I need to take the change in price of another good. Clear? Now we can have two types of goods, complementary and substitute goods. So for complementary good, what happens for the complementary good? If the price of complements increases, what will happen? Demand of complements decreases obviously by law of demand. So demand of own good also decreases. If I take example of complementary goods, what are the example of complementary goods? For example, bicycle and tire of bicycle, right? So if the price of tire increases, it would be more costly to afford a cycle, right? That's why price increase in my complement will decrease the demand of my own good. So you can see price increases, demand decreases in case of complementary goods. That's why in case of complementary goods, my CEDAB will be a negative sign because of inverse relationship in the price and demand. If I talk about substitute goods, substitute, if the price of substitute increases, what will happen? People will shift from substitute goods to another, people will shift from one good to another substitute, right? So demand of my own good will increase, right? So you can see there is a direct relationship. So in this case, the CEDAB will be my positive sign. You don't have to cram this. Please, I told you the relationship. How did we derive this? Okay. So for complementary good, I will be having a negative sign. Why? Because if the prices of my complements increases, it would be costlier to afford the actual product. That's why the demand of my own good will decrease. But if I talk about my substitute, if the price of substitutes increases, then my own good will become relatively cheaper. That's why the demand of my own good will increase. So that's why it will have positive sign, it will have negative sign. So take 20 seconds of your time and we have covered all the types of elasticity. Now we will move forward to price flooring and price ceiling. Quickly take 20 seconds of time. If you have any doubt, give me that in the chat box. Okay guys, clear till now? Any doubt? Okay, I can see the chat box to be free of any doubt, so there is no doubt I guess. So shall we move forward to our next topic, that is price ceiling and price flooring. Clear? So these price ceiling and price flooring is basically done by usually government. What in the first chapter that we discussed three types of economies, right? Command economy, that was that was centralized by some central authority. Then there was a social economy, which was social economy was command economy basically. Then we have capital economy, which was run by market forces, and there was a third type of economy, which was basically my mixed economy, where my most of the prices are determined by the market forces of demand and supply, but still government interferes sometimes. So this government is interfering in the price determination in these two ways, okay, by price ceiling and by price flooring. So first let's move forward to price ceiling. Let's say price flooring first. Okay, price flooring basically means minimum price, setting the minimum price, determining minimum price, okay, determining minimum price. How they will determine the minimum price? For example, have you ever heard of MSP? Have you ever heard of MSP, guys? Minimum support price, right? So what happens in minimum support price? Exactly, government fix a certain price that even if the market is not giving you this much, we will give you this much at least, right? We will give you this much at least. So for example, let's take an example of MSP. If the market rate is, for example, established, government supported, government said that okay, I will buy your rice, whatever quantity of rice I will buy at 20 rupees per kg. Okay, whatever the price at the market, I will be ready to buy at 20 rupees per kg. Okay, but in case in future the price of rice goes to 10 rupees per kg. Okay, so but we have minimum support price, that my price of rice cannot fall below this 20 rupees per kg. Why? Because government is accepting to buy that units. Okay, so right. So it is basically determining minimum prices. So in price flooring, price is not allowed to fall below the minimum price set. One example was MSP. How can this minimum prices be more advantageous? For example, government want the public to use less of the cigarettes or alcohol. So what they will do? They will set a higher minimum price. Okay, they will set a higher minimum price. For example, if the alcohol rate is currently prevailing at 10 rupees per bottle, for example, okay, so what they will do? They will set it at higher unit of price, that the price is not allowed to fall below this 10 rupees. So automatically if the price increases, the demand will decrease. Clear? However, it is allowed to rise above it. Think about floor. What is floor? Floor is laid down at the bottom. That's why we determine the bottom price. But above there can be, sky is the limit. So above there can be anything. So they are allowed to rise. So note it down. So if we talk about the curve of this, for example, the market is prevailing at this point. Minimum floor price will be set above this actual market price, right? So always remember, minimum price will be set above the market price. Otherwise, what will be the use of this, right? So this is the price set out by my government. So this is, I can say, P star, which is set by the government. So what actually is happening? This is my demand, this is my supply. Here my demand was equal to supply, but what is happening here? Here my demand is less than my supply. So when demand is less than my supply, what will happen in the market? There would be excess in the market. Okay, automatically by increase in price, my demand contracted. Clear? But this excess in the market will not be absorbed by, because what will government do? Otherwise, in the long run, what will happen? We discussed now, in the long run what will happen? The supply will also decrease. So the supply will decrease here. Demand is increase. So they will come again back to my original point, right? If my demand is, for example, if I set a higher price, suppliers are not able to sell what they are doing, so they will be ready to sell at a lower price, so automatically the price will again shift to this, but we want the effect to be effect of my price flooring. So what will I exactly do? The government or the agency which is setting the higher price, they will try to buy this excess. Government or agency buy this excess. Now when this excess is covered, so my new equilibrium will now be set at, government will try to match this demand, right, match this supply, right. So this new equilibrium will set at a higher price. Is this clear? Now your automatic question should be, then why my equilibrium is not being set at T? You told me that in the long run your equilibrium will be coming at, your price will be coming at the equilibrium price only. So in this case, if this happens, so there was no point of raising the price, right. So what will happen? Government will try to buy this excess price, excess supply. So buying this excess supply will automatically bring my demand to my new supply, and at this price my new equilibrium price, which is higher than my actual price, will be established. Okay. Or another thing what can government do is, government can tell the suppliers to supply less. Okay. So they will basically shift the supply curve to the upward direction, but in this case also my price will be set at a higher price. So in both cases, even if the government matches the supply, if the government matches the demand, in both cases my new equilibrium price would be higher than my original price. Clear, guys? Moving forward to our next thing was price ceiling. Now ceiling is always at the top, that is why we will determine now the maximum price. And when I am setting something as maximum, it means I am not allowed to go above that price. So that is why price is not allowed to rise, but allowed to fall. Okay. So obviously the market will be, the government will be establish this price ceiling below my market price, right. So this will always be below the market price level. For example, this was my demand curve, this was my supply curve, which was established by my market. So this was my equilibrium price. Now what government did is, they established market maximum price, which is below my actual price. So for example, government determined price ceiling here. Okay. Now what can you see? My demand is more than my supply. When my demand is more than my supply, what will happen? Shortage in the market, right. What will happen? Shortage in the market. Now what will government do? If there is no action being taken by the government or some agency who has done this maximum ceiling, automatically after some time period my supply will decrease, increase, and my demand will decrease, and they will automatically come back to this equilibrium point. Okay. So what will we do? Either we have to increase the supply or we have to decrease the demand. So government can either decrease demand, either match demand, sorry. Yes, government can either match the demand with their excess supply, they can either increase the supply to match this demand and establish this price at lower price. How? For example, by providing subsidies to the producers. So they may be more incentivized to produce. Okay. So substitutes to producers to incentivize for supply. Okay, or what they can do is they can introduce tax. Yes, basically they want to decrease the supply to this level, decrease the demand to this level only. Either they want to decrease the demand, so they may increase higher tax. For example, GST, they may increase the GST percentage of that good if they want to decrease the consumption of that good. Clear? So if they want to decrease the consumption of that good, so here. So in both the cases the price is set at minimum price, lower than what was the actual price in the market. So this price flooring and price ceiling are basically government's attempt to influence the price other than the market price. Is the difference clear, guys? Is the difference clear? Now what government can do? Here either they can introduce the tax. So let me introduce to some theoretical words as well. When it comes to price ceiling, there is shortage in the market. So either government can increase taxes to reduce the demand, or they can do rationing, that placing the limit on how person can buy to reduce demand and hence reduce the shortage. However, there can be risk of illegal markets. Okay, there can be risk of illegal market, or I can say underground markets, where people are selling the products still at a higher price than set by the government. Okay, so underground markets. So one risk of price ceiling, if not administered well, is risk of illegal markets. Clear? So with that we have almost covered our chapters. There are few independent topics and we will take one more class over that and then we will finish this chapter. Okay guys, anyone having any doubt till now, please tell me, then we will wrap up the class. Okay, I can see no doubts in the chat box. So okay guys, have a nice day.